Hello, welcome back to YouTube, people, as well. This is part 3 of our balance manifesto, which is over the course of 3 days. We covered the other 2. Now we're doing auras, curses, and elemental damage over time. Now this was the most exciting one for me because it's the one that I'm the most excited about seeing, and also the most anxious because they could screw a lot of things up. They could do a really good job of screwing a lot of things up here in this one. How long is it? Ooh, it's not that long. I don't know how big the spoilers are. Should be all right. Let's find out. We've assembled an article, identify a set of problems and our intended solutions, etc. All right. Support characters, aura, and other reservation effects. Problem: the reduced reservation stat provides very little benefit at low values, but becomes very powerful when heavily invested in. This allows players to run every aura in the game, and also forces reduced reservation to be balanced around the extreme levels of investment, limiting how useful it can be to characters that do not run enormous amounts of reservation in the skill. Finally, a character that is heavily invested in reduced reservation in order to run more skills on mana were also able to reserve life extremely effectively as well, with no further investment, rendering this the only sensible way to play the most heavily in reservation focused build. Not necessarily true. The best way to play it was always CI. It was just more expensive. But anyway, replace reservation solution. Replace reservation reduction with reservation efficacy. When stacked, reservation efficacy does not allow for infinite auras. This can be given out much more liberally as a result. Efficiency? Is that efficiency? Not efficacy? You're right, that's efficiency. My bad. Reading is hard. This can be given as liberal as a result, letting characters run additional reservation effects with only a couple of sources of reservation efficiency. The average character benefits, but the top end extreme reservations are made significantly weaker. Okay. Sweet Jesus. Okay. Modifiers to reservation have been replaced with reservation efficiency. Reservation efficiency works by dividing the cost of reservation. 100% increased reservation would halve the cost of all auras. Okay. All right. No, I get it. So then presumably 200% would make it a 25% aura instead of, or 25% of the cost. It's cooldown recovery speed sort of way. Never reaches 0, right? And then it cuts down, blah blah blah. All right. Passives and item modifiers with reduced reservation have been replaced with increased mana reservation efficiency, generally at double the value of the previous reservation value, but sometimes with different values for balance reasons. This means that a small amount of reservation investment is more impactful than before, while higher investment doesn't allow for as many auras to be used. Okay. The vast majority of reservation efficiency offered now is mana specific in order to prevent reserving both life and mana being the default choice for heavy investment builds. Generic reservation efficiency and life reservation efficiency is still available on some items. Okay. If not mentioned below, all sources that previously provided reduced reservation, including for specific skill types of skills, now provide increased mana reservation efficiency at twice the value of the reduced reservation they used to give. Modifiers on existing items are affected by this change. Okay. Notable passive skills granted by clusters. The previously granted reservation of a specific aura now grants 60% mana reservation efficiency of that skill for auras that have 50% base and 100% mana reservation efficiency for auras that had 35%. So in theory, this is way better. That's a massive buff if you were using one of them in a non-RMR build to like fit one extra thing in. That's actually quite efficient, like really good. I kind of see where they're going with this. The Herevent Sanctuary Thought notable passive skill now provides 25% increased mana efficiency instead of 10% less mana reservation. Okay. Helmet enchants. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Enchants for skills with 50% base now grant 20 to 30% increased mana reservations. Enchants for skills that have 35% now grant 45, and enchants for skills that were 25% auras now grant up to 75%. Okay. Corrupted this so far, look, I know I'm only like halfway through the first point, but what I'm hearing is that all of my characters are going to be running more auras than before. But the idea of aura stacking 14 auras onto one build is gone. But if I was usually running 2 or 3 at most, I'll probably end up running an amount more like 4 or 5 on every build. I don't know what those exact numbers will be. There's a lot of contributing factors there, but there will definitely be a sweet spot of like this level of investment. Yeah, that'll be right. Corrupted implicit modifier on jewels that previously provided 1 RMR now provides 2% reservation efficiency, not specific to mana. Okay. Skyforce now grant 12% instead of 6, of course, of the new thing. Truce now has precision has 100% increased efficacy instead of 50% less reservation. Cool. All right. Essence Worm now grants 80% reduced reservation efficiency instead of 40% increased reservation. Okay. Memory Vault doesn't matter because no one's using it. Unique items that previously granted 100% reduced reservation cost now have that skill reserve has no reservation. Okay, well, tell you what, I'm still getting an Ools. Every character I'm gonna want is an Ools. So many Ools. Anyway, items that previously caused socketed gems to have reduced reservation have been balanced separately to other reservation effects. They still provide generic reservation efficiency rather than mana reservation efficiency, but generally have values lower than double the amount of the reduction that used to be applied. Blah blah blah. Existing items will be updated functionally to the values started below, but will display old values unless updated with a divine orb. So your older items from standard will be converted over to this, but won't visually be converted over to this. They will, they just won't look like it. All right. Shaper and Hunter influence shields, the previously granted 10 or 15%. Now grant 15 or 20. Okay. Synth implicit modifiers that granted 10%. Now grant 20 increased efficiency. Prism Guardian now has 30% increased to reservation efficiency instead of 25% reduced. Feels like that's a slight nerf. I feel like you're gonna, if you had nothing but that shield on, you would actually fit less on. That's fine though. Victoria's influence now grants socketed gems have 45% increased reservation instead of 30 reduced. Okay, cool. Varying DM is only 25. That's also relatively nerfed. Vivisect now grants 20% reduced reservation efficiency instead of 10% increased reservation. Pretty much the same. 20% on Heretic's Veil instead of 12. Close enough. Rot Blood's Promise. I don't even know what that is. Now grants 80% increased efficiency instead of 50% reduced reservation. I don't even know what Rot Blood's Promise is. Alright, whatever. Moving on. A character's characters specializing in maximizing the amount of auras provided an absolutely insane amount of damage and defense to party members, making a party with an aura specialized character much more effective than one without. Of course, shouldn't it be? Anyway. Solution: remove sources of aura effect from cluster jewels and move the aura cluster jewel type to the small cluster jewel, so it is no longer possible to continuously stack aura effect for your party. Introduce a new cluster notable to increase the effect of auras on you, effect of your auras on you, for builds that are building auras for their own power. Please, can it be on you and your minions, please? Please? Pretty please? Because that's rough. You're really hurting my minion builds right now. And you're not even supposed to be touching them. You're supposed to be touching aura bots. And you're really hurting my minion builds right now. I'm just saying. Right. Specifics. The aura cluster jewel types can now be found on small cluster jewels rather than medium clusters. Makes it more costly and less impactful to stack a large number of aura cluster jewels. The small passives now grant 6% increase reservation efficacy instead of increased aura effect. Okay. Cluster jewel notable passive skill I've had. Hang on. Cluster jewel notables, blah blah blah. Increase aura effect on you from the purposeful Harbinger cluster jewel notable now only applies to your own aura effects. The Master of Command cluster jewel notable now grants 10% increased effect of non-curse auras on your skills, previously 15. A new cluster jewel notable has been added that grants 10% increased effect of your auras on you. Okay. Cluster jewel notable passives that grant reduced reservation to specific auras now grant high amounts of reservation efficiency to that aura, as well as improving the secondary bonus that notable gives. Okay. Added a cluster jewel notable passive that grants high amounts of reservation efficiency to specific auras, as well as some other small bonus. For example, Zealotry has 60% reservation efficiency and 10% increased effect of consecrated ground you create. Interesting. Do Amulet now grants 10% effect of your curse instead of 15 and 10% increased effect of auras instead of 15. Still gives you 11% more effective life though, so still probably keep wearing that if minions don't die by the time I get to the end of this. Support characters. Curses. Characters specializing in maximizing the number of curses provided far too much damage and defense to party members, making a party with a curse specialized character so much more efficient than one without it. Again, I don't see this as a problem. Like, shouldn't it be? But okay, whatever. Solution: make curse cluster jewels. Solution: make curse cluster jewels a small cluster jewel, with many of the notables reworked to benefit specific curses significantly, greatly improving a regular character wanting to maximize the curse of their choice, make significant changes to Doedre's skin, as it applies many curses at almost no cost. Okay. Okay. Curse clusters. All right. The curse cluster jewel type can now be found on small cluster jewels rather than mediums. Makes it more costly and less impactful to stack a large number of them. Okay. Give it the 12 months. Let's keep going. List of cluster jewel notables.
Cheers.
Evil Eye, Whispers of Doom, and Dark Disclosure clusters have been reworked as new curse-themed notable passives. In general, curse effect that applies to all curses no longer exists in cluster jewel notable passives. Lord of Drought, Blizzard, Caller, Temp Storm, Misery, Everlasting, Exploit, Weakness all now grant 40% increased effect of a specific curse instead of 25. Forbidden Words no longer grants 5% increased effect of your curses. It now grants 20% increased reservation efficiency of curse aura skills. Previously 4% reduced reservation. That is a big buff for that in like specifically. Added a new curse cluster jewel notable passive that benefit Doom, Mark, and Hexes that previously didn't have their own notables, such as Punishment, Elemental Weakness, Temp Chains, and Enfeeble. For example, 20% chance for Hexes to be applied at maximum Doom, and Hexes to have 50% increased Doom gain rate. Interesting. Doedre's skin now grants Hexes from socketed skills can apply 5 additional curses. Previously granted hexes from socketed skills ignore curse limit. This says that replicas Doedre damning has some downside to using it. Yeah, that's fair. Now granting 20% less effect of your curses from all skills instead of reduced curse effect of socketed. Okay, whatever. Oh no! Oh no. The summoned Doedre effigy skill now has a short cast time, previously instant. Okay, see that line right there? Rude. Killed it. Dead. I'm not using that anymore. See you later. Cooldown has been somewhat removed. Previously half a second. And it now has a mana cost. Existing items will be affected by this curse limit change. So they will only have the 20% less effect. Curse triggered. Okay, whatever. Some other uniques that have been rebalanced. Replicas Doedre damning now grants only 25% increased effect instead of 35. The Wheel of the Storm Sail Shield now grants curse skills of 100% increased duration. Literally nobody cares. Jinx Juju's now only 10%. Yep, cool. All right. Okay, here's some good stuff. Elemental damage over time effects of cold damage over time, burning, and ignite are too dependent on elemental overload and elemental equilibrium. Ignites are too independent on the ignite damage multiplier on skill, making skills without ignite multipliers too weak to use ignite with. True. Agree. Solution: greatly improve the base strength of ignite, burning, and cold damage over time while making elemental overload and elemental equilibrium less powerful or require more investment with damage over time skills. Rebalance skills that could apply ignite effects around the new base damage of ignite and remove the ignite damage multipliers. Okay. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ! Hello? Okay, there's like 3 pages of specifics here. Players' ignite now inherently deals 150% more damage than before. Previously 50% of base damage over 4 seconds, now 125% of base damage over 4 seconds. Good change, good start. I like it. Cold damage over time skills now deal more damage. So what's that, like 75-80% more damage? Same deal here. Same deal here. They're all like between 70 and like 80% ish more damage. Okay. That just applies to basically all cold dots as far as I can tell. Anything missing there? Cold snap, Val, cold snap, vortex, siphoning trap. No, they're all there. Alright, so we're just upping the base damage of all the cold dots. Added cold snap damage over time numbers. Alright, no, added cold snap damage over time numbers, cool. Alright, burning skills now deal more damage. Okay, searing bond 38.9 instead of 24. Okay. So same thing, basically the same thing with all the burning skills. They've all gone up like between like 60 and 80% base damage. Ooh. Righteous Fire goes up quite a bit. Oh, and it got 35% of life and energy shield instead of 20% of life and energy shield. Nice. Okay, so Righteous Fire's damage went up by quite a bit, hopefully. Flame Wall now deals 679 instead of 450, with the secondary doing 2266 instead of 1520. Ooh. Flame Wall again? Do we get to Flame Wall again? Infernal Legion support goes up to 2092 instead of 1315. Nice. Okay. Many skills that had ignite multipliers have had their ignite multipliers removed. The skills have been balanced to compensate this if necessary. Okay, many skills, blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. Taking into account whether they're able to take full advantage of elemental overload now, note that examples below do not include the effect of elemental overload or elemental equilibrium, hence why ignite values are much higher than other skills. Yep, short, fair. Alright, so I don't think we need to read through all of these. We get the idea of what they're doing, right? Same basic thing. No longer has more damage with ignite, etc. Because, you know, ignites with this skill are now 33% higher. That's just that rough thing is going to happen here everywhere. Things that were easy to use elemental overload with have received a harsher damage loss because it still works well with elemental overload. Yeah, okay, so yeah, what I want is Armageddon brand. Armageddon brand now deals up to 920 at level 20 instead of 500, and it no longer deals more damage with ignite. Now activates every 1 second instead of 0.75. It's got a critical strike of 5 instead of 6. It now has deal 10% more damage to branded enemies at level 1, which scales up to 29. Because of the base ignite damage changes, ignites with this skill is now 10% higher. Okay, if you say so. I don't know if 10% higher is enough to make that good. It needed to be like doubled to be even close. Anyway. Shattering Steel now has projectiles deal 100% more from hits and ailments because base ignite characters. Okay, whatever. Explosive Arrow now has explosions deal 5% more damage with hits. Previously hits and ailments because of the base ignite changes. Ignites with this skill are now 66.7% higher with 10 arrows in the target. Ignite from this skill is now 25% higher with 20 arrows in the target. Sentinel of Purity summoned by Herald of Purity now have 40% less life because of the base ignite changes. Ignite with this skill is now 50% higher when using Death Wish from the more... What? What? Okay, whatever. Whatever. Frost Bomb now deals significantly less damage at level 1. That hurts. Oh, and significantly less damage at level 20. It no longer has 25% reduced energy shield recharge. It now has 4% more damage with hits per duration. Ignite with this skill will now be 74.1% higher when it is able to ignite. Were people were people doing a Frost Bomb Ignite build that I didn't know about? I tell you what though, those level 1 nerfs hurt. It's gone from 21 damage high end at level 1 to 13. That is painful for our like early act 1. That is painful. That is, we might not. I don't even know of that. I don't even know if you're going to use Frostbomb in Act 1. That's rough. All right. Elemental Overload Keystone passive now gives more hits and element damage to skills if they have crit in the last 8 seconds. This means that you can't use a second rapidly hitting skill, making a small amount of critical investment much more important to skills. Ooh, okay. Okay. So we can't use Stormbrand like on a trigger or something to proc EO anymore. Okay, well that's rough. Let's keep going. Elemental Equilibrium Keystone passive now applies a 25% exposure for the elements not hit, removing the exposure of the elements you hit with. Is now an easy way to apply a strong exposure effect rather than a huge damage boost when balanced. A huge damage boost, we balanced elemental damage over time of a round. Some of the skills have been reviewed in this changes. We'll be looking at pure elemental minions to determine what changes are needed here. Can we also look at pure physical minions that were always converted to full elemental minions? Just throwing that out there. By the way, the pure physical ones are a much bigger deal to me because we were always converting them anyway. So just don't overlook that. Moved the Elemental Equilibrium Keystone passive to the Ranger section of the passive tree. Never mind. I'd fuck off instead. Where there is much less existing access to exposure for elemental builds and access to skills that rotate elements such as Wild Strike. Dead. It's dead. I don't go anywhere near there. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We nerfed it, but it's still usable. But by the way, we put it all the way over in Whoop Whoop, where you can't get anywhere near it. How am I going to get over here? That's not happening. That's not happening. It's dead. They killed my boy. Anyway. Okay. More scaling options have been added to damage over time builds on the passive tree and items, raising the top end of damage over time for well-geared characters. That's good because there was no top end. There was no top end. The top end was the medium end. You could invest another 30x and it didn't matter. We definitely need more of this. Okay. There are now 5 tiers of global damage over time multiplier suffixes that roll on weapons, going up to 26% on one-handed weapons and 45% on two-handeds. Now 5 tiers on amulets that go up to 26%. Influence modifiers on rings that had chance to ignite, freeze, and shock, as well as some flat damage. But damage change to no longer have a chance to apply the ailment, but provide a lot more added damage instead. The fire versions roll up to up to 54 against ignited. Cold damage up to 48 against chilled or frozen, and the lightning up to 86. Okay. Essence of Delirium no longer rolls hexes you inflict have 5 to maximum doom on rings and 10 to maximum damage over time multiplier on ailments. Instead, it now rolls up to 15% damage over time multi on rings, and hexes you inflict have plus 10 to maximum doom on amulets. Okay. Fire, cold, physical, and chaos damage over time multipliers. Modifiers on jewels now have values of 6 to 8. Okay, cool. Instead of 4. Good. New global damage over time modifier that can roll on jewels with value of up to 6. All jewels can now roll faster damage of ailments as a prefix modifier up to a value of 6. Yo. The chance to ignite, freeze, and shock suffixes on weapons now have multiple tiers, with their chances now 10, 15, and 20% respectively. Staves have 20, 25, and 30 respectively. Okay. Damage over time multiplier modifiers on influence gloves and amulets now roll up to 20% instead of 16. Faster ignite, poison, and bleed modifiers on influence boots now go up to 12 instead of 10. Emberwake added a bit too much damage and crowded out many other options you could use with an ignite build. And the downside has gotten weaker over time due to us adding more sources of faster ignite damage. It no longer has ignited enemies burn 50 to 65% slower. It now has 40% less burning damage. Huh. So it's only a 20% damage increase now to put that ring on, basically. If you're reliably putting on 2 ignites. I mean, 20% more damage is nice, but it probably means you could roll rare rings that are better than it now. Right? Like, I can probably get more than 20% damage out of a really well-rolled ring. That would just be like a starter ring for now. Which is probably fine. That's probably fine. It's still a really nice starter damage item for this kind of build. But you would be able to replace it with a good rare. So that's not bad. Burning Arrow is too complex for a level 1 skill. Solution. Make it a level 28 skill and keep it because it's good. Redesign the skill without a secondary stacking burning effect. Oh. But with high added fire damage against ignited enemies. Oh. No longer has a stacking burning effect. Now does 150% base damage unchanged. Up to 214% base damage at level 20. Previously 184. Now adds up to 305 flat physical damage. Now has less attack speed as well. And less chance to ignite. Okay, sure. Ignite builds don't have a way to focus their damage on bosses, forcing the balance of some clear speed. Okay, cool. Flat fire, sorry. There's quite a bit of flat damage. But yeah. Change Flame Surge. Wait, Ignite builds don't have a way to focus their damage on bosses, forcing balance to be The same for clear speed damage as boss damage. Solution: change Flame Surge and introduce a new attack-based mechanic to be able to deal much more burning damage to a targeted enemy. Flame Surge is getting a new burning ground mechanic that deals damage based on ignites on the target. We're investigating a similar mechanic for attacks. Okay, interesting. Okay, so that one was a lot shorter. Unfortunately, so there's a few things here. One, they've done a few things that I, at first glance, I perceive to be a problem. The first thing is, to make a really good group party before, you really needed a minimum of 3 people. You needed an aura bot, a curse bot, and a damage dealer, right? And there were always extra things you could put in after that. You could always fill up a party. But it looks like now you're just going to need a party of 5 to have 1 damage dealer and 4 supports. And then those people that were doing that are still going to have the same amount of power they had before. What you did with these changes was you made it more difficult to have a good supportive party, and made it less accessible to people who aren't already experienced at doing so, but didn't really fuck with the extreme abuse cases anyway, because those people already had enough people to make a full party. So you've gutted a lot of moderate level auras that people were using. You've completely forgotten that minions exist, and that minion like aura stacking was never like 16 auras to begin with. Like, I mean, there were extreme cases where they were, and I'm okay with nerfing the extreme cases again, but what I want to do, or have done in the past, or want to do again, was always like an aura related minion builds, but they always had like 6 to 8 auras, something like that, never the 16. And you've kind of made them not work purely because we forgot to put in increased effect of auras on you. Notables and shit should be on you and your minions. If that was the case, those would probably still survive. They might not be quite as good as before after all of this, but they would probably survive if it was you and your minions. You've just forgotten about minions again, which is, I mean, can people please stop forgetting about minions when we do this? Please? I really love minions, and I would like you to stop forgetting that minions exist and accidentally nerfing them at the same time as trying to address unrelated problems. That's all. Because you've done a bunch of those here, with the E getting moved, so that can't be used anymore. That's like a 50 resist loss for my minion builds, and then we've already nerfed them in a bunch of other ways. They've already had direct nerfs. Now we've got aura nerfs on top of that, and it just feels like minions get forgotten about. And then they get nerfed just by accident while you're looking at different things, and then they become really bad. And so that's not a fantastic part. Otherwise, I'm overall pretty happy with most of this. What I don't know, what I need specifics, and I feel like I'm going to end up needing it in Path of Building to find out, is how much of a hopefully buff the end result of getting ignites and stuff working is, because I'd really, really, really like to be able to make ignite characters again. I do like that. I do like that we've moved away from having ignite multipliers on skills, because now I can use things like arc ignite again, which is POG. That's really cool. Not that I will personally do that, but I don't like that those builds disappeared. But I don't know. I like the idea of most of these solutions. I do hope that they end up being a significantly more damage than they're doing this league right now. as it stands, all Ignite builds are kind of bad. And so if you could make them decent, if I, with really good gear, could get my Ignite character, Armageddon brand or whatever, to deal 4 mil single target with my really good, like, softcore trade gear, I'd probably feel good playing it. When for a fraction of that investment, I can get 20 mil on a hit build. If I can at least get it to 4, then the build will feel good to play. So I'm hoping that that happens. Whereas this league, the best I'm getting with that level of investment is like 600,000, right? So it needs to be like 3.5, 4 times as strong as it was. And the loss of EE and EO is very rough. So I don't know that these are enough to make up for it. But when I say I don't know, I really mean I don't know. Not like, oh, I don't think it is. More like, I don't know. This needs to show up in Path of Building to find out what our numbers can be. If they're fixing it the way they hope they're fixing it, I'm going to be really on board though. So hopefully it's fine. Yeah. Those are all of my initial thoughts. So that's all I've got, man. We need Path of Building now. That's what I need. I need Path of Building. Everything is just I need Path of Building now. That's all we've got. All right. We'll say goodbye to YouTube. What are your thoughts on cold dot starters? Very worried about cold dot starters. They've basically removed EE from them. It's going to be really hard to keep EE up. EO rather. They removed EE entirely from them, but it'll be hard to keep Elemental Overload up because every individual dot skill needs to be applying it itself for that damage to apply to it. And I don't know if that's reasonable. And while they got decent base damage buffs, they didn't look large enough to make up for the loss of EO. So I'm not sure if cold dot is going to be good or not. But again, this is a stage of not sure. Actually not sure. Actually need Path of Building numbers. Like, I'm worried about it, but I'm not going to stand here and say it'll be trash because we don't have all the information that we need yet. But as it stands right now, it doesn't look good enough. All right. That'll be it. We'll say goodbye, YouTube people.